I'm Eddie Brill. I'm in New York, New York. I've been involved in comedy since I went to college at Emerson in Boston in the mid to late 70s. And I had one break where I thought I was going to do advertising or something else, and I missed comedy. So I've been involved pretty much straight on. Since 1984, I haven't stopped being part of comedy, and then getting involved on both sides of the camera, so to speak. Living in LA for a while because I did a television show there, and then an opportunity came for me to do the warm up for a TV show out in LA, and I was broke, so the money was good. It was babysitting a bunch of kids, pretty much, but it was across the hall from the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, which was very lovely. And I just got sick of LA. I got sick of, I was having fun, but it wasn't really my career that was skyrocketing. I was living, Sam Kinison was running the Comedy Store in LA, and I was getting work every night, and it was fantastic. And I was doing a lot of partying, never when I was on stage, but after the shows, we'd party like crazy, and you'd hang out with celebrities, and there was this dream world that seemed a lot of fun. And then I realized I need to work, and I need to work on my craft. I need to be in a place where I can be more creative. And New York always seemed to be that way for me. So, I started getting some other jobs in New York. I worked at the Dana Carvey Show, which was a brilliant TV show. It was a little too smart for American television, so it didn't last long. That's happened a lot. There's a lot of pandering and a lot of, it doesn't mean there's not a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of pandering. So that show was too smart for television. I worked as warm-up for a Gabriel Byrne sitcom called Madigan Men, which was really terrific and smart as hell, with great writers and great producers. And again, didn't last more than one season. It was a little too smart for American television. One of the guys who worked at the Dana Carvey Show, that was all superstars, was Louis C.K. And I knew him. I was on, the MC the very first time he did stand-up. And we kept in touch with each other, and he was one of the producers over at the Dana Carvey Show. He went over when the show was canceled to the Letterman Show. The Letterman Show ended up needing a warm-up comedian, and Louis recommended me. And I got a 6-week trial period that lasted 17 years, which was really, really terrific. And, that shaped a lot of my life and my career, and sticking up for comedians and putting them in the best possible scenario. Being a comedian myself, it was, comedians don't always have someone going to bat for them against the suits. And I was the man on the inside now. And not only was it great for me and lessons and education and the incredibleness of working with someone as brilliant as David Letterman, one of the best broadcasters of all time. And because he demanded that greatness around him, everybody who I worked with, the producers, the bookers, the camera folks, the lights, they were the best of what they did. So you went to work each day and you were forced to take your game to the highest level, which was really great. And I did that for a long time, and I had a lot of fun, and I went to work every day, like at 5, p.m., which was really fun. Made it easy. And my evenings were full of some of the greatest, entertainment on the planet. In 1981 or so, I was frustrated with stand-up comedy because it's not very easy to do and not easy to be successful. And I had worked with a lot of very, very talented people. And I thought, you know what? I'm probably never going to be as good as they are. And I should, get out and try to do something else. And I missed it so much. In 1984, I had the opportunity. I had now moved to New York from Boston, where I was in college. And the opportunity came for me to run a comedy club, and fell in my lap from another Emerson person that was down the street from NYU. And quickly it became one of the best comedy clubs in the country. It's called the Paper Moon. And, I started bringing in many of the comics I knew from Boston. Eventually, this Paper Moon became the Boston Comedy Club, which is kind of highlighted in shows like Crashing and movies about comedy. But we had brought in all of these comics from around the country that I had met. Jake Johansson, Paula Poundstone, people from San Francisco, Chicago, the people who weren't regulars at the comedy club in New York. And, right away I met Colin Quinn, comedian, actor, and him and I together ran this comedy club, and it became wildly successful. And then it got a little bit over the top because, every day I'd get a phone call at home. Hey, I can get this club, and I'd love to work it. And it was only 52 weeks in a year, and it ended up, being a little bit too much, and things started going well for me as a comedian. And I gave the club up to the guy who, like I said, made it the Boston Comedy Club. And all of a sudden, I started traveling the world doing stand-up, and I really liked it. One of the things I liked most about traveling to places like England and Ireland and France and those kind of places, you could really see the difference in the comedy styles of the different countries and the soul of the different places. There's always soul is something that goes from, I've worked in Bangladesh, and it was one of the most soulful times I've ever had as a comedian. But in England, there was no pandering to the audiences. And I was kind of shocked at how different it was than in America, because, Americans are looking for applause. And Norm Macdonald, who had recently passed when we're doing this interview, had said, as a comic, I'm not looking for applause, I'm looking for laughter. And I found it in Europe that there was more looking for laughter than there was looking for, hey, how about those old people? They don't get their due. Hey, how about the troops? Let's hear it for the troops. It's like, who's going to hate the troops? And why are you getting, applause off of their hard work? Let's get some laughter off of your hard work. And it really changed my life in such a way where it made me realize, the soulfulness of humans and just lessons all along the way, which has really been great. Yeah, it was. I didn't start with Dave until he was at CBS. He had moved to CBS in 1993 in August, and I had gotten the job in February of '97. And so he's at CBS now, and he's at the Ed Sullivan Theater, which is one of the greatest theaters in the world to perform in. And it still ranks up there number one in my book. Just, one thing that we would acknowledge to each other on the set, every once in a while, we just look around and go, oh my God, let's not take this for granted. This is one of the iconic buildings in all of show business, in all the world. And it had this magic that, you walk into a room and there's a certain energy, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Like, people will visit a city and go, I'm a New Yorker. So, people talk about Philadelphia and they go, oh God, the Phillies, or the Philadelphia sucks, or whatever. But when I go in that city, there's a good energy. So I like that city. And maybe it's not everyone else who feels that way. Same thing with New York, or like Austin, Texas, or San Francisco, or Galway, Ireland. The Letterman Theater, when I walked in there, it had this energy that just, it just all led to this incredible combination of different people who were working together on that high level and putting together a superior product out. And then you had to forget about it and go back the next day and do it all over again, And, but you didn't want to get jaded. You didn't want to think, oh my God, what am I doing? Or not paying attention. We never called it in or phoned it in of either thing. But I kind of had to put my comedy career sort of on the back burner, even though I was still doing stand up. When I became the booker of the comedians on Letterman, I was listening to like 1,000 comedians, and I had to make sure that I was putting their, looking for new comedians, mentoring comedians, working on sets with the different comedians, and hearing all of this material. I didn't want to do any of it myself by accident because I had heard it. So I focused a lot on helping other people during that time. And when that was over, it was great, but it was now time for me to get back. And I've been back, and I just love stand-up. And then the world stopped for a couple of years, and I'm doing stand-up again for the first time in a month and a half, 2 months tomorrow. It's not, comedy's supposed to be, you're supposed to do it every day. There's a woman named Cindy Ambers who, is my manager, and she was managing Jake Johansson and a couple other comedians, Wendy Liebman, Nick Griffin, people like that. And I just always knew that when I dealt with her, she was a straight shooter and smart, and that's what you're looking for. So it ends up, I get a call from Cindy, and she says, there's a guy named Jeff Price, and my husband and him are very, very close, and I want to get involved in this project that they're working on, and I would really like you to be part of this project. Well, halfway, they had me at, project, and I listened into early conversations, and I met Jeff, and I knew that he was, leading up a group of people that I respected. So it was no reason not to jump on, because what Jeff has been fighting for pretty much his whole life is the soulfulness, the correct treatment of humans, and to make sure that people are not screwed over. Well, in the comedy business, it turns out that there are people who have, circumvented the correct, process of paying comedians, and were able to pocket the money themselves. And whether these people are evil deep down inside, or just naturally, I want more, or whatever they do, it's not their money, and that money belongs to the artist. So what Word Collections is doing is getting the money to the people who earned it, and that there's everything right about that, and that's why I'm on board. I've been with them since they started the comedy part of this, and I will continue to be there helping them to have comedians join in and be part of what they do. And, these are my friends, so I want to make sure these comedians are my friends, and I want to make sure that they're getting paid too. And I'm not doing it because I want to be a hero. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do.